for extra credit. A smile for me. When they crossed Brandywine Station, is that what it's called? Where they met Strider? Okay. The Gallop Prancing Pony Inn, I think. Okay, anyways. You've gone from Tatooine and now you're approaching the Death Star, okay? We are now going to feature print. With this in mind, we have a guest speaker on Wednesday who teaches writing feature for print. That is Dr. Chittister. Thus, I am requiring you right now to read Dr. Chittister's chapter in the addendum. Okay? Crafting multimodal media messages. Because he's going to come in and I want you to be ready to talk to him about that. But I will now introduce, and we will introduce ourselves to how to write a feature. Go ahead, zoom in there. Feature print writing. Go back for a second. Feature print writing. And how many of you already know the difference between a straight news story and a feature print story? How many of you gone to labs? How many of you know the difference between a feature story and a straight print news story? You know more than you're giving yourself credit for. You do. You do. Okay? Because here we get to go beyond just the facts. What are we really going to be doing here? Telling a story. That's correct. We want in straight news, we give the climax in the first sentence. Who won? In a feature, we want to keep them reading. To wait for the climax as we would in any good story. So in feature writing, we're telling a story in the story form that we began this class with. So let's go ahead. Today we will discuss using descriptive language. Is there a way to shut up this first row or not? Using descriptive language, you don't have to write this just because we'll cover it all. Using descriptive language, a narrative approach to feature writing. Example, a layout of a narrative approach. We're going to talk about unified writing. We're going to talk about some other organizational styles. We're going to talk about feature leads. And then we're going to talk about some other types of print stories. So let's go to the first thing, which is using descriptive language. That means go to the next slide. Thank you. Using descriptive language. What you want to do is paint a picture in the mind of your reader. All right? So it does start with clear thinking and it ends with clear writing. All right? Clear thinking. And it ends with clear writing. I mean, what is the most important consideration when writing for mass media? Clarity. Goes without saying. Now we are going to, just like we did in our first assignment, we're going to use simple words. Why? Yes, Nick? To appeal to the everyday person. We can't assume they're a tennis player. We can't assume that they know about spelunking. Uh-oh. What is spelunking? How many people know what spelunking is? Some of you don't. It means what? Caving. Exploring caves, right? Well, we can't assume that everybody knows the word spelunking. So we take care to use smaller words to create a big picture, okay? Now, we're going to be more descriptive even in features than we were in inverted pyramid. Bless you. I just got the sniffles today, is that right? Yeah? We're going to use descriptive language, okay? And when I say descriptive language, what I mean is describe in terms of the 5 senses, all right? Describe in terms of the 5 senses. And what are those senses? Stop writing after you get to senses, okay? What are the 5 senses? Sight, smell, sound, feel. What else? Taste. Taste, definitely. I lost my sense of taste years ago, so I don't have any sense of taste. I don't know what it is. It's something. I'm just kidding. I can taste. Obviously. How else would I play Santa Claus at the mall every year? Anyways, what we want to do is here's what we do. We paint a picture in the mind of our receivers. Pull this down for a second. Remember I talked about, you could talk about a scene in an Afghan city and you could say it's horrifying. Remember that? What would I rather know? When I use the word horrifying, what am I doing as a writer? I'm telling them how to think. What else am I doing? I'm instilling fear into the reader, but I'm making a judgment they should be afraid. Mr. Porter, as a military guy, he might not be afraid at all. That might be where Joe rises to the occasion. He might not find that scene horrifying. He might see it as an opportunity to save some little kids who are caught in the crossfire. Okay, the point is, I'm not going to judge that it's a fear or horror-evoking scene. What I'm going to do is describe the scene. Remember, what words did I use to describe the scene? Yes. The scent of rotting flesh mixed with the smell of burning napalm and the sulfur of gunfire and explosions. All about the smell, right? What else? What else could I describe? Yeah, I could see decaying corpses, dismembered, partially charred, okay? I'm sorry to use such a graphic example, but I think it's a solid one. What else can I think about? So I got sight. How about explosions going off? Fire flaming? Reminds me of the latest, what's the new flavor of the new Taco Bell? I guess they ran that commercial like 8 times yesterday during Heisenberg. So, Heisenberg, I mean, not saying anything. So, sight, sound, or smell. What about sounds? What sounds can we allude to in this war-torn Afghani street? Yes. The sound of gunfire. The sound of bombs, of grenades. How about then buildings falling, walls falling after the explosions, right? What? You yelling, screaming, the crackle of radios as servicemen try to communicate to each other to coordinate a fire, what do they call it? An airstrike, right? The taste of death. Walking Dead doesn't start till 2 weeks, dude. Man, I saw World War Z over the weekend. Anybody see that one? That was good, wasn't it? I mean, Brad, I mean. But Brad's cool. He makes great choices, doesn't he? Even Killing Me Softly. Anybody see that? He pays for these movies he makes. But that was good, I thought. The way he got the guy to shoot the other guy, and then whatever. World War Z, the taste of death. Okay, cool. I mean, the sulfur is so thick you could maybe taste it. You did a good bold attempt. Bold attempt, but if there's so much sulfur from explosions, you could probably taste it. Or that the rotting flesh was so the odor was so strong it was almost palpable. We shouldn't use that. You could almost taste it. That's much better than palpable, isn't it? Right? It's more simple, yes.
I used aurally the other day.
A-U-R-A-L? Okay, good. Aurally, okay. Just be careful with that word, right? All right. Okay, so we got sight, smells. How about sounds? We already said them. The bullets whizzing by. Do you guys get it? And then after that, what does the audience get to do? Yeah, they get to judge whether it's a horrifying scene or not. You know what I mean? I mean, Hulk might not find it horrifying at all. I mean, I don't know. Captain America, right? What's that? Iron Man? We just watched Avengers the other day again. It's awesome. Don't want to give away the end. The world might be destroyed. But the character interaction's so good, isn't it?
Captain America and Iron Man, they always just like doing it.
Yeah, at least my powers didn't come from a vial, right? I love how Iron Man's always trying to get Banner to turn into the Hulk, you know, like annoying him. Anyways, I digress. The point is, we use descriptive language, do we not? Descriptive language. And let the audience judge for themselves whether it's horrifying. You know, there's a Christmas scene with the family, and you can smell chestnuts roasting by an open fire, and the lights on the tree, and the smiles between the people, and the half-drunk uncles drinking nutmeg. You know what I mean? That's a warm, comfortable setting by describing it. Do you understand? That way you don't judge. You describe and let them judge it. Okay? Because for me, I didn't even get to go to the game because the kids and I were playing a gig, but man, we beat Abilene Christian, and I bet for me it would have been a joyful scene. How many people, anybody go to the game? Well, is it fun? Okay, but we wouldn't say fun in our feature. We would describe why it's fun. Excitement's the screen, the smell of the new stadium, right? All of that stuff, the brightness of the new chairs. I haven't even been to the new stadium yet, although I'm helping pay for it. You know what I mean? But we would want to describe that scene and because if you're from Abilene Christian, you were not joyful that day, were you? So let them decide, the reader decide for themselves whether it was joyful and exciting, okay? Do you guys get it? What do you do? Rather than using adverbs or adjectives, rather than using modifiers, what do you use? What? Yeah, say it loud and firm and sure. Say it. He cannot hear, she cannot hear you. Descriptive words, that's right. And then let the audience decide for themselves. Let them apply the modifier, the adjective, or the adverb after you describe. Bring it back up, Mr. Porter. Thank you. So you do want to balance between too much and not enough description. You don't want to get in minute detail. I mean, you could talk about the maggots on the dead body, and you could count them. Yeah. You can tell us what color they are. They have brown heads, but white, mostly white. Look like, kind of like rice that you get at a really bad restaurant. But you don't want to be too much description for us, okay? Yeah, the flies and... So there's a fine line. I'll just say that. Okay, there's a fine line between too much description, and that's your choice. Writing is about making choices, and so you have to decide how much description is enough to impart the scene to the audience. And then finally, the bottom line, I already said it, don't rely on modifiers. Use descriptive language. Let the audience decide for themselves what modifiers would be applicable. Do you understand? All right, cool. All right, let's go to the next thing, which is narrative approach. Man, this is like old school. And I didn't want to emphasize it too much, but you don't get to tell really good stories with inverted pyramid, okay? But you do with features. The features, it's all about the story. I want you to go back to the second day, the first day, when we talked about telling a good story. And I tell you, with any narrative, and that's just another way to say story, you've got a protagonist, the person who makes a decision to do something or moves the story forward. They have some will or want, right? Is this familiar? Know this, learn this, live this. Robert McKee says we do not teach good dramatic theory in universities today. And I say to Mr. McKee, he hasn't taken my class, because we do, right? We know narrative theory, and we're going to use it to tell good stories. All right? Is there an inevitable, what is the inevitable outcome? Well, the Redbirds are either going to lose or win, aren't they? So what are the major dramatic questions? Mine was, would the defense show up? Because for some reason they were on the wrong bus the last 2 weeks when we were playing elsewhere. I just wanted the defense to show up. It looked like they did show up. They held Abilene Christian to way less yards than the Abilene Christian's been getting. So defense was good. Okay, good. Excellent. Especially, man, the defensive backs get those interceptions or knock those passes down. Pardon me. I digress. But those are the dramatic questions. Were there other dramatic questions here? Was it 7 and then was it tied at 7? Ever? No, we got 7 and then 14 and then they got 7. What? Oh, okay. I'm just reading trying to remember what I read from the Vedette. I mean, I love the Vedette, and I'm reading it like a hawk today. and went online. They sent me a really nice news release as a season ticket holder about the game, and I appreciated that. But were there major dramatic questions? Were there injuries by the Redbirds? The quarterback? Really? Wow, now we know that the second string quarterback is really good because he did really good at Eastern last week, right? Was it Eastern last week? So that's a big dramatic question. If there are injuries, that poses a dramatic question in that story. Then we want to talk about complications. I'm sorry, I'm really talking about complications. An injury, whether the defense is going to show up. And the audience, the deal is, this is what Oprah does well. She gives us the facts about an issue, but what does she do with the issue? She makes everybody cry, but it's not by spewing out facts. How does she make us cry? Somebody raise your hand and tell me. Yes. Bam! Drew nails it. Give him a smiley face. Whose lab is he in? Whose lab are you in? Pretend like you're in his smiley face. Okay, good. Did you send her on the attendance sheet? Yeah, okay, good. Hey, Drew's right. She puts a face on the issue. We could talk about how many U.S. service people have sacrificed for the women who are persecuted in Afghanistan, for freedom in Iraq. And I could talk about numbers, about people, men and women who come back injured, about whether they could get good VA treatment, whether they catch botulism while in the VA hospital. But if I put a face to the issue, then it brings it home to us and it makes it more emotionally engaged. Do you understand that? So what you want to do is you might want to be talking about service people who have served us and protected us overseas and come back with injuries. And you might want to talk about that issue. But if you pick somebody's story, they become a representative for the issue. And then you can sprinkle in statistics about how pervasive it is, about how many other people have injuries, particular injuries, how the VA has handled it, all those things. But you do them through the prism of telling a story about an individual. Do you understand what I'm saying? You get it? Well, and you know what? We'll remember it more when you put a human face on it. That's how we remember. If I give you random statistics about 300 people at Thermopylae that fought off Xerxes and the Persians to save the Athenian democracy, you're like going to glass over. But if you watch the movie 300, how many do? How many have? You remember that story, don't you? Because you know the story of it. I mean, that's one of the reasons I went back and I got a history degree. History, facts, blah. But when I think about why did Thomas Jefferson do what he did? What was the situation? What was his will and want? What complications did he face as he tried to buy the whole middle of America so that we could live here now? It becomes interesting to me. You see what I'm saying? When I think of history in terms of stories, his story or her story, then it's interesting to me, just the facts, man. I don't want to know about that. I want to know the good stories about history. You see that? And I'll remember it. You see? You guys get it? Now wait, okay, hold on just a second. So, we tell a story. Where does the climax come in? Here's what I'm going to say to you guys. Guys, look at me for a second. Make a paragraph each one of these things. Do you understand what I'm saying? Have a paragraph, and we're going to talk about your lead, but then the second paragraph, make sure you introduce us to your protagonist. Okay? You're going to have a paragraph when you're going to describe what their will and want is. Do you get it? You're going to have a paragraph that you're going to say, well, it's yet to be told whether they'll complete an Ironman or not. Right? 2 paragraphs, talk about each one of the major complications they faced. And then what do we do at the end of talking about our complications? What? Very good. Climax. Did you hear what she said? Yeah? What do we do at the end of our complications? Climax. And it's a paragraph. And he came out victorious. Because he finally finished his first Ironman, right? Or she did. And then what we do is we go to resolution or denouement. He's happy that she's happy she finished an Ironman, but now she'll start training for the next one as she tries to juggle work, family, and training. You know what I mean? So you kind of end it by pulling it. Life returns to normal, although a little bit different than when we started. Yes?
So are those paragraphs, complications, climax, and conclusion?
No, I think complications should be each a paragraph. You got 3 big complications, make them each a paragraph. I would say, I'm just giving you a general rule. Now, there's one thing I would add to this, okay? And that is somewhere in the first 3 paragraphs, you're going to tell the reader why they should care. What do we call those things? Those considerations that make us think about why we should care. What? Personalization can be, okay? But just hearing about somebody else's story is one thing, okay? What do we call it? Those considerations that make it appealing to the reader, make the reader want to get involved with the story. What do we call those? Attention getters who are piquing their interest. But no, there's a big term we talked about last week. News value. Say it loud. What? News values. You win. You're going to play Double Jeopardy here in a minute. What's your name again? Cassidy's rocking today. News values. My suggestion is, after you get our attention with the lead, introduce our protagonist and their will and want, pull away for a second and tell readers why they should care. It's an engaging human story, but maybe that's where you tell how many Americans are affected by this same thing. Do you get it? That way you get significance of magnitude. How many people are affected by returning veterans who are injured serving you and me and protecting us and our kids? Does that make sense? I think telling a great story is good, but if you can also identify news values somewhere in the second and third paragraph, you give us one more reason to read the story. Repeat back what I'm saying. Do you get it? Do you get it? What is that? What is it I'm saying? Come on, anybody. What did I just say? Yes, thank you. Put a paragraph in to say why, towards the beginning, that says why they should care. And what we're going to use is the concept I talked about last week, which is emphasize what? News values. Very good, Taylor. Thank you. Good, always good answer. Is it Ginger? Oh, okay, Michelle. All right, from now on, Michelle, my belle, these are... Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I need mnemonic devices, okay, Michelle? But you rock. You're right. Give us a paragraph about why we should read, and we should use news values in that. You get it? And that's almost a hybrid of the traditional tell them a narrative form, okay? You guys get it? Tell us a good story. Throw in some news values. See the bottom? No, go back. Emphasize news values that make the story important to the readers, as well as personalizing it, as Joe said, by putting a human face on it. Okay? All right, go ahead. Example layout of a narrative. This is a narrative approach. Well, and here it is. I just said it. First of all, establish a lead, and we're going to talk about various leads in a minute, but you need a lead to get our attention, to get us started to read. Then, second paragraph, introduce the protagonist with their will and want, or what the major dramatic question is. Are they going to make it through basic training? Why is military coming to mind? Are they going to... Is Miley going to get a venereal disease from the dance she did at the VMA? No. And then introduce some other news values. You know, does this set a bad example for my kids? I mean, I'm the one that spent all that money taking them to Hannah Montana stuff. Again, I told you she got like 10% of my income for 3 years. And now she's doing, is that what Maggie's getting? What does this teach our children? And the values about our children. Not that again, what does Lady Gaga teach? I'm like, who? Lady Gaga? Yeah. But Miley's got some positive songs too. She is an activist. She wears her meat suit, right? Anyways, the point is, the next several paragraphs, after you introduce the will and want and the news values, realization. Miley realizes she has to fight against the image of her as a little Disney kid. What are her complications as she tries to remake her image? Well, she's got her dad on her back all the time, and the Disney people aren't very happy with her, and you got some cranky old 47-year-old professor who's worried about his kids complaining about what she's wearing. You know what I mean? In paragraphs, identify complications. And then at the end, give us a climax, answer it. It looks like Miley has been able to reinvent her own image and is the captain of her own destiny now. What she's going to do and how she's going to look and what she's going to communicate is now up to her. So I'm sure that Miley will continue to grapple with who am I and what is the image that I want to portray and how do I become a respected artist underneath the shadow of the Mickey Mouse ears. Blah-diddy, blah, blah. And actually, you could tie it back into the lead. I think that's best is to tie it back to the attention getter. Everybody understands this. I've already talked about it, right? Can we go to the next slide? Because I want to go to the next one. I want to talk about a lead. No, go to the next one. I'm sorry, lead. No, next one. Next one. Look at him trying to write that quick. Leads. Let's talk about what various kind of. We already know what a summary lead is. We used it for what? For our inverted pyramid straight news story. It's potentially that you could use a summary lead, but you don't want that. Do you want me to tell you what happens at the end of World War Z? No, so you don't want a summary. You want me to tell you what happened in the Heisenberg episode last night? No, you don't. So you don't want a summary lead. You want to sit through that program and get to the climax when the climax comes, right? Gray Matter Industries. Anyways, So you know that you can use a summary lead, but you don't really want to in a feature story. A multiple element lead. Now, this is almost drifting into broadcast writing too, but let's say multiple element lead. I want you to stop writing, okay? After you get to multiple element lead, okay? And this is a way that you can introduce various aspects of your story with one lead. A giant snowstorm has hit Illinois State in the middle of September. We're going to look at it from several perspectives. A meteorological view, what it means for students, what it means for commuters, and what it means for the guy that sells snow shovels and salt at Walmart. You see what I'm saying? So a multiple element lead leads us into a subject, but then suggests it's almost like a preview of what various aspects are going to be covered. All right? That's another kind of lead. The next lead you should write down is the affective lead. Affective. And it's a word for the day. What does affective mean? Affect. Somebody tell us. Yes. Almost. Yes. Well, it's different from the word effect. It means emotional. Okay? Affect means how does it affect me emotionally? There's nothing more sad than a starving puppy. Now you're going to read that story for just a minute, aren't you? About the starving puppy, his sad eyes looking up at you. I know it'll get you. Some of you read, you can help. You'll be going to Walmart and buying kibble and taking it this afternoon. If we talk about, hey man, nothing to the big eyes of that little puppy. You know what I mean? Affective lead is, how do you tug at my heartstrings? A little boy waits at the airport for the body of his mother who died in Iraq to return from her. Do I have your interest? Yeah. So what you do with an affective lead is you get their attention by tugging at their heartstrings. What does MCC stand for? McHenry County College burned to the ground last week, and all the teachers and former students are distraught at their loss. That's sad, isn't it?
Child trapped in school.
Oh yeah, and there was a child. And Taylor, who returned as an alum, was caught underneath the burning beam. I care. I'm going to read more about it, okay? You get the point. Get at their heartstrings. That's what an affective lead is, okay? You're not affected by the puppy. You're inhuman. You're a machine. No. Even I'm suckered in. I mean, look, man, we can watch any TV show and the cops can be blowing away all kinds of people, but as soon as a dog gets shot, we're all like, oh. Like the bad guy can just like kill all kinds of people. Once he kicks a dog, he's a bad guy. You notice that?
Or iRobot.
Yeah, a kid.
Or I
Yeah, I Am Legend. It's when the dog gets it that we're like, oh man, these zombies are really bad. They hurt the dog. Why is that?
There is.
Okay, whatever. The bad guy can murder all kinds of people. Once he kicks a dog, he's a bad guy. That's affective. Anecdotal. What's an anecdotal lead? Who read the chapter? Look at the honesty. What's anecdotal? It could be, yeah, metaphor. Okay, yes, sir?
The example of the book is meant like he's sitting in the corner of the box and reading like sweaty.
Yeah, it gets their attention, but it's only kind of tangentially related to the fundamental part of the story. Yes? It is a small part of someone's personal experience, okay? And it doesn't give us a lot of news value or tell us what the story is, but at least it piques our interest, all right? So anecdotal. How about descriptive? What's a descriptive lead? This should be self-evident. Yes, sir. It sets the scene. That's right. Rafts running across a field. Whistles were being blown. Balls were being kicked. Reggie Redbird was beaten up. Who's their mascot? What? Was beating up a stuffed wildcat. You're setting a scene. All right? I mean, remember when I'm talking about that danger? I'm not even going to say it's dangerous. The street in Iraq where the bullets are whizzing, explosions going off, sulfur, rotting flesh, the sound of screams, crackling communication of radios, all of that. That could be a lead. And we're like, man, what's this scene? I want to read about what's going on here. Right? It turns out it's only in Flint or Leroy's on a Saturday night, right? No. But the point is that you describe a situation to pull your audience in. Another type of lead is what? And particularly a rhetorical question. I don't think these are very good, but they can work. Give me an example. Do you have anybody in your family who's serving overseas in the military? Right? That might get you interested in the story. Do any of your friends serve overseas, or have any of your grandparents or other relatives ever served? Question mark. A rhetorical question. Nick?
How far would you go to save your country?
Okay, there you go. How far would you go to save your country? Just giving tax dollars? Sending somebody else? Or would you suit up and show up, get on the boat, and get under enemy fire by some radical Taliban, misogynistic, woman-hating scumbags? Pardon, that wasn't very objective, was it? But a rhetorical question, good. Another way to start is with the quotation. I have but one life to give for my country. Did Patrick Henry say that? Some people feel that way about protecting our nation.
He also said, give me liberty or give me death.
Oh, okay, all right, great. Give me liberty or give me death. Okay, well, there's a quote. You could start with a quote from a famous person. People are about as happy as they decide to be. Abraham Lincoln. I love that one. You know? So you could start with a quote from a famous person and then get us into who the protagonist. Well, Billy Joe Williams has decided to be happy because he's started his own flower shop. He's always dreamed and wanted to have a flower shop. You get my point? Yes. Yeah, I think they could. You could start with statistics. I think that could also be anecdotal. 4 out of 5 dentists who recommend chewing gum recommend Trident. Trident gum, originally invented by Gern Blanston, who always had a desire to make a good tasting sugar-free gum. But he realized he's going to face a lot of challenges as he did it. But the statistic could get our attention. I'd almost say it's more anecdotal, but that's good that it's not here. And your comment is awesome. Starting with the statistic might get our attention. Yes, ma'am.
For the exam, are these going to be like multiple choice or are they
Oh, man. There she goes with the evil question. Is this going to be on the test? You know, at the Sermon on the Mount, there was this Jewish guy giving a speech, and somebody said, is it going to be on the test? Was that blessed are the meek or the Greek? Blessed are the peacemakers or the cheesemakers? I didn't catch that.
No, I know it's going to be on there. I'm saying,
I don't even know that it is on there. Yeah, but doesn't mean you shouldn't try to learn it, Ida. All right, you're right, Nick. Let's get this on the test for Ida, okay? Another kind of, I didn't answer your question. I don't think it's on the test, but yeah, it's number 28 through 36. It's this one right here. Another kind is direct address. And direct address, we're going to use it more in broadcasting, but it has a U orientation. Have you ever wondered what it's like to work at Six Flags? Well, maybe you should. Have you ever wondered what it'd be like to win $15 million in a lottery? Well, that could get our attention. You know, that was the case with Mr. Gern Blanston, who won the Wisconsin lottery last month. You see what I'm saying? So, a U orientation. Well, wouldn't it be amazing if you won $1 million in a lottery? You know, that's a way to get our attention, all right? And then finally, staccato, which I hate. I, period, don't, period, think, period, these, period, are, period, full, period, sentences, period. But they exist, okay? Staccato, all right? They're not full. This is in the book. Go to the next thing. There's other type of print stories. They're in the book. I'm not going to cover them. You might be called to write a eulogy or an historical story or an obituary, a follow-up. I would always suggest trying to tell a good story. I want you to go back 3 real quick. 1, 2, 3. I wouldn't even say, I'm going to tell you, I would like to see your story be a narrative. Don't I? Still got a minute, do I not?
30 seconds.
All right, let me tell you about an hourglass structure. You might use this someday. Hourglass structure starts with inverted pyramid, then after a few paragraphs shifts to narrative. All right? So will you go back to that where I talked inverted hourglass? There you go. Hourglass format, that's very good. Chronological tells you a story as it unfolds, but I think narrative does that, but narrative only hits the important things that have dramatic salience to us, okay? All right, do I expect that you read the book? I demand it. Stop. I need you to read the book. I think it's chapter 4, the Chittister. Is it 3 or 4? 3. Read Chittister. We have a guest speaker for this Wednesday. Enjoy the sweet weather. Thank you and congratulations for getting through your first assignment.